ali kada si pomenuo teška vremena su ona koje su u Rusiji poslednjih nekoliko godina. Olga, kako uspevate da se u tim vremenima organizujete, kako uspevate dijalogom sa poslodavcima, vladom, zaposlenima?
Hello everyone. First of all, I'm very happy to be here in dear Serbia, and I would prefer to speak Serbian or Russian. Unfortunately, the majority would not understand us, so we'll switch temporarily into English. Well, first of all, I would like to say that we are also celebrating lots of anniversary dates this year, and the Civic Chamber of the Russian Federation, which I represent, is celebrated its 20th anniversary. So we are here somewhere together in the way to build the best social dialogue in our countries, because the main mission of the Civic Chamber of the Russian Federation is to actually build trust and put together both the government and the society, represented by 172 members that are partly 40 people appointed by the president personally, by President Putin. Well, then 43 members are elected by the NGOs of different kind, and all the rest, 89, are representatives from the regions of the Russian Federation. And this composition of the Civic Chamber, I think, guarantees at least that all the civil society and all the layers of the civil society are heard and are represented. Also, we have 20 commissions of different kind, and what is important that every commission, according to the topic that is selected, for example, I represent the Commission for Economy and Labor Relations, and also there are lots of commissions on, for example, traditional values and health and family protection, so the whole range of different topics that could be actual and interesting for the society. They are all connected with the corresponding commissions or committees in the lower and the upper chambers of our parliament, which is also very important for all this systemic dialogue. On the other hand, the Civic Chamber of the Russian Federation, and those of you who had a chance to be there in Moscow, you probably could see that we have lots of different rooms and halls that are very welcoming for all the people who would like to discuss topics there. So you can raise a topic and you can address any of the commissions, or even more, any of the coordination councils, because coordination councils, which are 14 as far as I remember, or maybe now already 18 because they're growing, they can be founded by some of the members of the Civic Chamber, but they integrate all the interested people, experts, who are not the members of the Civic Chamber, but would like to discuss this or that topic in this or that form. So what is important here when we talk about the social dialogue, that you create possibilities where all the people who have something to say can come somewhere, can address someone, and discuss everything that they want to discuss and be integrated in the agenda. Also, what's important, we have the so-called zero readings of all the laws that are being discussed and then established, put into practice by our Duma, the lower part, the lower chamber of our parliament. And the zero readings are also very important, because sometimes when there is something very difficult that you need to decide in the country, and there are lots of opinions. You need first lots of places where people can express their ideas, their visions, and come to some conclusions, and only then discuss it in the parliament. So that's how you give a place and you give an environment for people to represent all parts of society and actually form this basis for the social dialogue. But what I want to say now probably would sound a little bit astounding and even revolutionary. We understood with the trade unions, which we worked together for a long time, or have been in a dialogue ourselves, and there is a special Federation of Independent Trade Unions in Russia. They unite more than 122 organizations for more than 30 years, and they are preparing for a great relaunch. And what I was going to say, which would sound revolutionary, we started a new coordination council, which I had. It is called the Council for Network Communities. And we now are totally sure that network communities as a new form of a social dialogue, I would say a polylogue or even a symphony that you need to orchestrate in the society, is something that all of us should focus on, and trade unions especially. In most of Russian countries, in most of Russian companies which sound to be very progressive, we found that the social function as a social mission is concentrated in the hands of the trade union. On the other hand, the most successful trade unions are those who concentrate on network communities, on building communities, on professionally doing that, on integrating all kinds of little groups that you may have in a company, in an industry, so that they can do things together, not only discuss. And when I say network communities, I do not only mean the social networks and virtual presence, but this is important too. And the old form trade unions or old school trade unions, they don't look in this direction. And this is very important because lots of young people, the majority of population that you need to focus on are there. And you need to have not only your interface, but your day-to-day participation and presence in social networks. If you cannot use your native social networks, that you should know how to use all the networks that are globally important. You cannot ignore this factor, because if you do not work there, if you are not present there, if you do not create your followers, if you do not build your own dialogue with them, then somebody else would build it. And you will not be able to influence it. So this is number one, virtual presence, virtual networks, uniting people there, microblogging, native communications. All that is a new norm for the civil dialogue, because the dialogue is not only in the posh rooms, not only at the meetings, not only between organizations, but also between and among people who select or choose to be heard and who want to be active. So on the other hand, it's not only virtual, it's not only in the social communities, but also in the networks that you build yourself in your real life. For example, in petrochemical trade union, we have 6 big directions. One is dedicated to sport and healthy life. One is dedicated to all kinds of social guarantees and social opportunities. One is dedicated to communication. One is dedicated to art and culture. And it may be surprising for many old-fashioned trade unions who thought that they would only protect the rights of workers and be in tri-party negotiations. But this mission, social mission, to be interesting to people, to get these groups of interest together and to coordinate them by a new form of social coordination, not hierarchical, not market, but network. Network as a form of building trust. Network as a form of building horizontal communications. Network as a form of consolidating people around some poles that may be of interest, but also, what is more important, may be of the same values. What we found in Russia, and answering your question, dear Milish, about how we cope, yes, we are coming and have been coming through very difficult times. What makes us be together and what makes the society be consolidated despite all the challenges that we are going through? We have unprecedented sanctions. You all know without saying that we are under huge pressure. We are in war. But at the same time, the level of consolidation of the whole civic society around the main values. And the main values, of course, proclaimed and fulfilled and lived by our president, it is about the values that we understood. And when we talk about these communities and networks, it is also important to understand that we are not in a constant dialogue or polylogue right now in a space, but we are, and we should be, in a constant dialogue in time. So we need to understand that our presence as a society is not just in this real time, in this real space, on this real territory. It is also with our predecessors because, and ancestors, because we consecute everything that happened in the past. And when you establish this pole of common values, for example, for us, we understood that sovereignty is one of the main values for Russia as a civilization. It was very important for those who were a century ago, 2 centuries ago, 5 centuries ago, at the beginning of Russia. And we are ready to die for that. And this consolidates the society, but you need to talk about it. And you need to get people together, to talk about it. So when we talk about, for example, justice, we all need to understand what justice means to each and every participant of this huge dialogue which we have in the Russian Federation, which means to every citizen and to every person who considers himself or herself Russian or belonging to Russia. We need to ask them, what is justice for you? And when they explain it to us and we hear them, then the justice that we can make together, it corresponds to everybody's vision. We do not force this notion, but we consolidate people among one value pole or one value center, or if you want, if we talk about the network, about one value node. And actually the design you have now at the back of us, when you talk about social dialogue, when you see these nodes, when you see these centers that are a kind of a magnetic poles that get people together. Actually, this is what I talk about when we talk about network communities. As many poles of this magnetism you have for as many people, the more consolidated and built on trust and happy the society will be. Probably the last remark here, we also had a research in our steering council, coordinating council for network communities, and we understood that if people understand that they belong to more than 4 different communities, they never have ideas of committing a suicide, going to a rebel or revolt. They feel satisfied and happy. And the more different these communities are, the happier they are, because they can practice their different identities. If you belong, for example, to a community of those who work on a law, and at the same time you belong to a community of shippers or yachtsmen, and at the same time you belong to a community of those who love classical music and go to opera, and at the same time you go to a community who do knitting, then you have different identities in yourself, inside yourself, that you can practice. And at the same time, people can value you in different angles. And what is even more important, we even have this formula. First, you need to find ones of your own, so those who you can call your close ones, those who you can call yours, in this or that extent. Then doing things with them, and this is very important, not only discussing, but doing things with them. Action, activities are very important, and they should be regular. You understand what are your strong points, because people tell you, oh, Apostolos, you are great in that, oh, Milos, you are great in that, nobody would do that. And you understand your strong points, your talents, and you understand what is yours. And then finally, you find yourself, because you understand who you are. I think the main crisis now that we are going through, and this uncertainty that you mentioned, is because people don't know who they are. If they know who they are, and if they know who are the same kind, they can go with them together, do things together, then all this uncertainty will disappear. The certainty is inside ourselves. So find ones of your own, find yours, find yourself in the end, and then eventually the society itself will be happier and more built on a trust.
Thank you very much, Olga. Thank you very much.